guys.
A shit show, a pure shit show. It literally takes a village.
I don't know if it was dirty or clean.
Oh my god.
Bad mom.
Like
Yeah.
on wild.
Yes.
Because I'm shining.
Woo! That was good, guys.
All right, ladies. What were some of your 2020 goals? Did we achieve any of them?
Starting with our 2020 goals. Let's see. I had a lot of goals for 2020. I had to get our finances in order, take care of some debt, get organized, work on my health, spend more time with the family, and that definitely happened in 2020. That was about the only thing that actually happened in 2020. So those were a little bit of my goals that I planned on. Some of them, I feel like the organized thing didn't happen like I wanted to. I did get a better plan about like how to pay off some of our debt and paying some things off, which actually 2020 helped with that because we had more time to get like a strategic plan in order. So that was something beneficial for us. But yeah.
Okay, so for me, 2020 goals were, I wanted to pause photography because my husband had gotten a new schedule where he was going to be on call. So I made the decision like, okay, I'm going to pause my business and I'm going to focus on being there for the kids. And then I would do the podcast on the side, you know, and that would keep me busy creatively. So I was excited for that. And that actually happened, but the podcast didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to be because we had intended on always being live together in the studio together. And with COVID and stuff, we were only able to do it for the first 3 months, and that was it, live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we wanted to also plan more like activities with the podcast and not just be the podcast, but like do other fun things like retreats and, you know, banquets and stuff like that. But yeah, that was canceled. And then I also wanted to put Ray, my daughter, in preschool, and that was canceled. And then I wanted to have more me time, and that was canceled because how can you have me time with all your kids at home, you know? So you had to get like more creative with that. I wanted to nurture my friendships, but then I also wanted to nurture my relationships with my children. And I feel like that did happen. Like, even though we were stuck on Zoom, like I feel like our friendships all grew even on Zoom. I do feel like because we couldn't see each other, just other even family members and stuff, it forced you to kind of like go out of your way and go on Zoom with them, and you know, and I thought that was kind of cool too. And then as far as with my kids, we had all the time in the world to hang out now, you know, so I feel like we were able to really bond with them. So that was nice. And then I wanted really more dates with my husband, and that didn't happen because nothing was open, you know, or date night looked different now. It was just like Netflix and chill rather than like, let's go out to dinner. And
but would you say you had more time with him though still, because everyone was kind of stuck at home? So even though you didn't have the date nights, you still had more time.
I did. And then because there was a time that he was even off during, like he was coming home earlier during the whole quarantine and stuff. So that was nice to have him home a little bit more. And then this was my year, guys, to have a big Halloween party because it was going to land on a Saturday. And I was so excited. Like, I've been wanting to have a Halloween party since I moved into my house 7 years ago, but it always got pushed on the back burner. Like, oh, budget, you know, like it just never worked out. And then finally it landed on, dude, all the
All the
holidays this
holidays.
year landed on a
Mhm.
Saturday.
On the weekend.
And then look, we can't do anything,
Yeah.
you know, it sucks. But instead we had our first block party. So that was cool. And I feel like our neighbors, this whole quarantine and stuff has kind of made our neighbors get closer together because you see them more often and you see everybody outside walking and stuff and you kind of start chit-chatting more. So that was nice. And self-care. Self-care was one of the things that, even though I didn't have me time like by myself a lot, I did make an effort to like put some more self-care, like at least like on Sundays, you know, and start little routines and stuff for myself. So
Nice.
yeah.
I feel like you said most of mine.
Oh damn it.
But I know like one of the main goals I had for myself for 2020 was because my mom had passed like that towards the end of the year last year, I had put my whole Beachbody job on hold and was planning on like returning huge in 2020, and I didn't because I just didn't have as much time as I thought I would. I just was like all over the place, I think mentally and physically with the kids. Plans with Mamas and Mimosas, I had goals for us that also got kind of put on the back burner. And then one of the things I was looking forward to was like one-on-one time with Levi, like because I knew Landon was going to be in school longer once he got into kindergarten, and that didn't really happen too much. So I feel like I kind of lagged with Levi a little bit because, you know, like when the older ones are at school, that's your time to have like your one-on-one with the baby and teach them and whatever. And I didn't really get to do that with him, and I feel like he's behind, but whatever, you know, like he's where he is.
He's behind in what?
I don't
feel
know.
This
Like,
kid is ahead
so-
of the whole
Right?
game. Yeah.
I always join like a mom group from that like What to Expect app, and it's like, you know, all the moms who had their babies the same month, same year as you, right? So all your babies like grow together kind of thing. And like they all post like, oh, theirs is saying the alphabet, theirs is reading the letters and the way they're talking. And I know we're not supposed to compare and everyone grows at their own rate, but it's like, oh my gosh, he's nowhere near talking that clearly. Or then I'll mention it to my husband.
Landon though? Was
Yes.
Landon at that age already saying his alphabet at a year?
Landon was speaking sentences by this time, but Landon was my only, and I stayed home with him, and I put way more effort into Landon. You know, like I was constantly like teaching him stuff versus Levi. It's kind of like he's not put aside, but you know, I just kind of let him fend for himself, and he follows his big brother. So I don't know. And then, like I said before, like mentally, I've been kind of spaced out and on autopilot because of my mom. So it's like I was looking forward to that one-on-one time with Levi. We had gotten an RV or a trailer at the beginning of the year, and so we had plans to like, you know, go travel and do all this and that, and then COVID happened and everything was closed, so all the parks were closed, all that was closed. I think that was pretty much like goal wise I had in plan for 2020. Not much of it happened.
You know, I always have like a health goal, you know, like, oh, I'm going to get like a 6-pack by summer or whatever. And it never happens. But I feel like this year has definitely fluctuated a lot more with fitness, you know, because like last year I stayed on my fitness train longer. And this year I would take like a month off and like just completely go downhill. And so that also fluctuated. And I think too, because you're not seeing anybody. So, and
you're like, who
you know,
cares?
and then you and your husband are just like, let's just eat it. Like, why not?
And then your time, you have like a house full of people, kids, like you just, nothing went as expected.
The kids are home all day long, so all they want to do is eat. So when you're giving them food, you're like, oh, I'm hungry now too. That's just me,
and
maybe.
then
Snacking it all day.
I feel like I learned that I was a stress eater because you know, with the having the kids home, I was constantly just
Homeschooling.
snacking. Yeah, and then homeschooling and stuff. And I was just like, I just need to eat. Just put something in my mouth.
Oh, that's what she said.
That's something. Well, there's other things that could.
No, something good.
Oh, okay.
That's not good.
You're disgusting. Oh my God.
What was some of the shittiest moments for you guys this year? Did you guys have any?
A lot for me, like not being able to travel back home, you know, like to go visit family. Well, this is home, but like back to Fresno, especially since I'm still grieving and I wanted to go like be with my family or go visit my mom's grave at the cemetery. And then one big one was Landon started kindergarten this year. And for me, at least, I feel like kindergarten's like a stepping stone because that's their first time at like a real school that's not like a daycare, you know?
Yeah, it's huge.
So I remember like hyping it up for him, and that's how I taught him or got him to like wipe his ass. Cause I'm like, oh, when you go to big kid school, no one's gonna wipe your butt for you, you know? And like, it was getting closer and closer. And I'm like, we have 1 more month till kindergarten starts. And like, you know, at that time it was very unsure, like if the kids were going back to school or not. So like, I just kind of made it seem like to him that they were going back or going to school. And then as it approached, like they didn't, you know. And then I remember the first day he started on Zoom, you know, we had such high expectations for him. Like we didn't know what to expect and he didn't know what to expect. And I sat in the room with him and, you know, when he starts losing focus, I'm like, pay attention. Like I started getting mad at him, and then it just was taking all the fun out of the experience. Like his class was from like 8 to 3 or 8 to 2:45, which is a long time for him on the computer for being a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, they did Zoom at the end of preschool, but it was only for like 30 minutes. So it was like a huge transition for him. And I remember at the end of the day, on his first day of kindergarten on Zoom, he cried. Like, and it wasn't just like regular tears. It was like he was truly hurt, and you could tell like he was hurting. And I was like, whoa, like, where did that come from? And he's like, it's too long. I don't like it. And you know, that's not what you want your first experience to be, kind of thing. So I remember that was pretty shitty to experience.
Especially kindergarten is so hands-on, you know, and to just watch it on a screen, it's not the same at all.
And the way that they did that schedule, it's like, really, you think that the kid is going to sit here and like really engage in this? Like, come on.
Yeah, and I blame myself too, because like I was putting so much pressure on him to just sit there and, you know, pay attention. So I would end up getting mad at him multiple times. So that was like a whole hot mess. But now he loves school. They're back in person, and it's great. But I just remember that being one of the shitty moments. And then my mom's 1-year anniversary, because of COVID, we couldn't get together. So we normally, for that type of event, would get the whole family together, all the extended family, friends, and do like a huge prayer and like do a huge celebration, but we couldn't do any of that. So we had to do like a virtual prayer and not be with our family. So that was pretty hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty shitty.
That's tough. I feel like, there's so many to choose from. And besides the obvious ones that happened to everyone in the world during 2020, some of the ones that we didn't talk about on the podcast were me being worried about my husband, because he worked throughout the whole COVID and quarantine. And so I was worried about his health. I was worried about his safety. You know, he has a risky job, and then he was around everybody who had COVID, you know, so I just worried about him all the time. And to the point that it got me like sick, you know, and just everything in the world that was going on and stuff. And I just had to like shut the world off for a little bit just to reset my priorities and our our, like, what's
Your
important to us
mentality.
right here. Yeah. Just to be able to like function, you know? Um, and then also during the you know, hard times of the what was going on in the world, my family relationships were going to crap. I lost a lot of relationships within my close family. And there was like a lot of family drama, and it just weighed heavy on me too. So it just, I felt like just nonstop like piles of shit was just climbing on, and I wanted to escape. I wanted to like, you guys know, I was like, I wanted to move out of the state. I just wanted to just start all over fresh somewhere else, you know? So that was that. And then not being able to go anywhere. Like I felt like there was one time I remember we went to the park down the street, and somebody like went outside and was like writing down our license plate number. And I'm like, are they? And it was kind of like in the beginning of COVID where you were not supposed to go to the parks or anything like that. And I'm like, are they going to report us because we went to the park? Like we're sitting on a picnic like blanket. We're not bothering anybody. We're not going on the jungle gym, you know, like I just want to be outside. And then we ended up leaving after, but so nothing came about it, but it was interesting. Like people would side eye you if you were driving on the streets. I felt like just driving, they were just like, where are you guys going? We're on lockdown. And yeah, homeschooling, my God. So I decided to try to homeschool the kids on like an independent study program. There were pros and cons. The independent study program was cool because I didn't have to teach them everything. They had like a video of a teacher teaching them stuff, and then they could replay it. But the only problem is they never would replay the video. They would just ask me, and I'm like, I didn't watch the video. So then I would have to sit there with them and rewatch the video. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm just like, it's like I'm teaching you. So I realized that I don't have patience to be a homeschooling mom, even though I was like a pretend one because I was like only half in it. But that was a lot. But it was nice to have, you know, in theory, I thought, oh, we're going to have our own schedule and we'll be able to wake up when we want. And yeah, that was nice. But at the same time, I wanted them to hurry up and get their important things done. So I still made them wake up and I still made them do school first thing in the morning, you know? So it really didn't change at all. Like that whole freedom thing. It
was not all work. Like what everyone act like it was, huh?
Mm-hmm. It didn't work for me. What about you, Roni?
The same, like besides the obvious, like not being able to go anywhere and just kind of being confined to the house or trying to figure out creative things to do. I also had a child that started 9th grade, which is high school, which is such a big time.
Yeah, and his graduation, they didn't have his graduation, right?
He didn't have his 8th grade graduation, which we were looking forward to that. I mean, he already had his outfit like picked out, like, you know, months in advance. We were already like trying to plan things. And so that was really hard to try to get him through that and trying to talk him through, like, you know, everyone's going through this. It's okay. But I mean, is it really okay? You're starting your freshman year, you know, that's a big time. And also with everything that was going on in the world and just having those uncomfortable conversations in our household. Like I mentioned to our listeners before, like we have a mixed household. And unless you've been under a rock, you know, there's been things that have been going on in our world. And to have those conversations in a home with a mixed family, it can get a little uncomfortable. So I really didn't enjoy that part. It was kind of a shitty part, but it was something that, you know, needed to be done. And I feel like the end result kind of brought us together and made us closer. So those were kind of some of the main things that were kind of like shitty for me, this year. And just all the plans, like everything that I thought that I was going to do. It's so funny. you know, you have all these things that you want to do, and we plan, like, and we think that we're promised that we're going to be able to do this, and you literally never know if you're going to be able to do it. So I feel like this was a lesson learned, that don't always think that you'll be able to do something tomorrow or next week. So, yeah.
Even grocery shopping got tricky, you know?
Right?
Like,
I mean,
not knowing what
got
was going to be
tricky.
in the aisles. Yeah. That's so true.
Right?
And with
Not
that
even
being
knowing
said,
if you can wipe your ass correctly.
yeah.
If you're
Like,
gonna have it
literally,
out.
there was no toilet paper. Like, what was that about?
And then the one that was available was like sheer. So
Yeah.
you know,
You would finger yourself. I
ridiculous.
fingered
Yeah.
myself quite a few times in the
With
beginning.
your
with that
long ass
toilet.
nails.
Yeah. She was wiping herself with her nails instead. But it just showed you that, like, it's so funny because I try to usually plan so much stuff in the upcoming year. I'm like, okay, we got to go here, we got to do all these trips and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year was just like, like, I don't give a fuck what your plans are. You're not going anywhere. You're staying home
Right?
with your kids. Yeah.
So with that, like, what lessons came out of that? Like, what lessons did you learn from that?
To
Not
definitely appreciate what you have, even if it's as small as paper towels and toilet paper. Like, and not to be so wasteful, because prior to that, I feel like I was constantly using like a bunch of paper towels, and then when it got to the point where paper goods were like scarce at the stores, I remember like cutting my papers in half, or like getting mad at my kid about like wasting, and it was like a reality check for sure. And
counting
like,
the squares of
Right?
toilet paper. Only 3 squares per kid.
Yeah. Appreciating like the thick toilet paper.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What else did I learn? To you have to put effort into relationships that you want to be successful, like especially with your family. Like for me, I had to put effort into staying connected with my family because we're so far apart. Like FaceTime was crucial, and it was a huge thing in our everyday life during quarantine. Like I FaceTimed my brother every day, and I feel like you can see the difference. Like with the kids, I would FaceTime my brother every day. So when we finally did get the chance to go up north, they just walked into his house, embraced him, loved him, and Levi didn't have stranger danger at all, versus like my husband's sisters, who we didn't never FaceTime. So we would talk to them when we would see them, which was very rare because of COVID and whatever. And you could see like the relationship with the kids that they had with them. Like Levi definitely had stranger danger, didn't want them to touch him. Lennon was kind of standoffish a little, like definitely having to put effort into like contacting others to stay in touch. My faith and my family, I learned, is definitely a huge foundation for me. They were the only ones I, saw every day. And, in order to stay mentally stable, making sure that I didn't lose touch with like my faith and my connection with my actual husband and my kids. And then because we were all adjusting at our own paces, and Landon's adjusting as a toddler should adjust. Like he doesn't know, what the hell's going on, and me adjusting with whatever's going on with myself, and then my husband adjusting with his job. It can get chaotic, and patience was definitely something we all had to learn with each other.
Yeah.
That was a huge lesson for all of us, because I remember like me snapping at Landon, or my husband, or him losing his patience with me and the kids, and it was like a total shit show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Right
Before I
behind
go to what lessons came out of it, I forgot, like, one of the really hard things was that I wasn't able to see my brother Michael. You know how he lives in a housing facility, and they were very strict on not letting anyone
Visitors
in or out, yeah, because of COVID, and they, you know, they have a lot of health problems. So we were not able to see him, and he doesn't have a cell phone, you know, so we sometimes we would FaceTime with one of the workers, but I would call him every week, but I could tell it was weighing really heavy on him, and I felt so awful. And so that would kind of bring me back to perspective whenever I would talk to him, like, here I'm bitching about my week and, you know, going to the park and somebody like giving us side eye, but you can't even leave, you know? So
did he
couldn't
understand what was going on? Like, how'd you guys
Oh,
explain
yeah.
it to him?
He understood. He would watch the news all the time, and he would tell me he was having a hard time, you know, because he couldn't see his family. Like, he had a birthday during the summer, and he's like, my birthday is just not the same without you guys. Like, it does. And he like had meltdowns and broke shit, and so he really had like a hard time. And it was sad because, you know, they have their routines. Like, he was working at a homeless shelter, he was working at different facilities, and they stopped all that during COVID. So he you know, he's the type of person, he needs structure and he needs routines, and when he doesn't have it, he uses that time to like do other bad things, you know. So and he panics and he gets anxiety. So that was really hard to see him just kind of spiraling out and not being able to like help him, you know. But finally they lifted the visiting, just like I want to say within the last month, and we were able to go see him in October. No, not last month. I'm all off. But in October we were able to go see him, which was really nice. But who knows now with everything shutting back down again, who knows if they're going to get nervous and shut down. Okay, so but the lessons that I learned coming out of this is to be flexible. Like, I'm a control freak, you know, like I like my order, and yeah, it's kind of like you just have to learn to roll with the punches and be flexible. And that was a huge lesson for me, and I feel like I've gotten more, you know, laid back about things. So like my daily routine is not so stringent. That's the word, right? Stringent, like super strict. And I have to trust in God. I had to learn to trust more in God to protect my husband during like the hard times, you know, with him being out in the world and stuff, and like me worrying so much about him. Like, me worrying is not going to help anything. I was driving him crazy because I was like, we should move, you should quit, we should do this, you know, like I was being drastic and I was being dramatic, and I was stressing him out even more, and that put, I'm sure, more stress on him than, and so he's over there worrying about work, and then he has to worry about me in his ear. So I just would like try to instead like just give it to God, you know, because I couldn't handle it. And my mom would tell me like, aren't you worried? You should tell him. So I have her in the back of my head like, you should tell him to quit. And I'm like, Mom, I can't control what he's doing. Like, I just leave it alone. You're making
Let
it
me
worse.
curl up in a ball and hope this goes away.
And you know, and then seeing things in social media and you know, like people saying like, you have to do this, and if you don't, then this is how you are, and you're this type of person. And I just felt like they're not even talking to me, they don't even fuck about me, but I just felt like, you know, you feel kind of attacked all of these different ways, and you're just like, oh my God, why?
You gotta pick a side.
Yeah. So I just had to learn to like not worry so much about what was happening outside the world, you know, and just kind of focus on the mental health of my family, because not only was the world suffering, but like, you know, your kids are suffering too. They're having a hard time adjusting, and there's a lot of conversations to have within the household with what is going on in the world. So you have to make sure they're right and they understand it in a clear way and in a non-hatred way. We're not trying to make them more hateful, you know, and so we just to try to teach them in love. That's what was like the mission. So I kind of had to redirect my focus a little bit. And then also with, like I said, the family drama, like I was trying so hard to like not let that drama just explode, you know. It was like a ticking time bomb. But then afterwards, once it exploded, I realized like sometimes you have to let people go to allow each other to grow, you know. And then if you come back, you come back, and if you don't, you understand, there's a different understanding, you know. And you don't have, just because you're not the same and you don't have that same closeness, you can still not hate each other, you know. Like, you just give each other that space, and space is not always a bad thing, you know. So I learned that. And then I tried to like gear my, like, because I get anxious and I always have to do some type of creative project. So I tried to focus that on like activities at home with the kids, or do like DIYs around the house, and just try to, you know, put it towards a different area. And then I realized like some of the best memories were already happening, you know. Like, it's like, I felt bad because I couldn't take the kids to the beach, or I couldn't take them here and do all the things that we had planned. But then it was like the in-between moments that we were actually making fun memories, you know. And they're right under your nose, and they're the ones that you're not taking pictures of, and you're just laughing and having a fun, silly time. And you're like, oh, that was fun, you know. And like, maybe they will remember that, or, you know. So yeah.
For me, I feel like mine was more of like not taking people or things for granted, because I feel like before this, like, it was so easy just to assume like that something or someone will always be there, or this will always be there. Like, oh, we can always go to the park. The parks are never going to close, and it literally closed. Like, so just like getting to an understanding to just like, you know, step back and smell the roses, and like just appreciate the life that we're given while we're here, whatever that may be, whatever you have to do to get in that spirit or make things go a certain way. Like with me, like what was hard for me during the quarantine was like trying to keep myself together, like to not freak out and get all nervous, and then have the kids see me like that, and then they start freaking out. So I had to like learn to kind of be like, you know, keep it cool. Even if I was freaking out, I didn't want them to see me freak out, because then they would freak out. And they're so small, they don't need to worry about that. Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm going to do all the worrying for you. You just need to be a kid. So I feel like that was one of the lessons that really came out of this, is I like worked hard to get to that point of just smelling the roses and living in the moment, I guess I would say. But with all that, what was some of the best things that you got out of 2020? And
Well, I'm gonna say some were like prior to COVID happening, so it was like January, February.
That doesn't even count. That feels
counts.
like a whole year ago.
You know, that's still 2020. Well,
Right?
just because I didn't get to celebrate my birthday, and you know, everyone else March after didn't get to. That's probably one of like the good things about Lennon and my husband and Levi having their birthdays at the beginning, was they all got to celebrate. And you know, and Landon turned 5, so it was like a big number for him, and we got to do like an actual birthday, and till this day he still talks about it. So I'm glad we got to do that for him. And I actually surprised my husband for his birthday, and I normally don't ever, so that was like a good thing, for memorable for us, at least in our family. But during quarantine, I think one of my best moments is like watching the bond between the boys grow. I don't know if it was because Levi's now getting to an age where he's able to play with Landon more, or because Landon was forced to have to play with him because he can't play with anyone else. But just like watching, like even this morning, I remember like they'll wake up and you can hear them in the monitor because they share a room. Levi, the last couple mornings, has been climbing up to Landon's bed, and they just play like for a good hour, and you could hear them on the monitor just like having grand old time, and me and my husband were in bed, like looking at the monitor, like, oh my god, this
You
is
should have
so
high five,
nice.
like
Yeah.
we did this.
And it was very cool. So I don't know if it was because of quarantine or because Levi's now getting at a certain age, but that's probably like the best thing that's happened to our family. Like just watching them, because now that they're playing, they're always fighting. So the moments when they are, it's like so precious.
I agree with you. I feel like the boys have definitely gotten closer, and I think you're absolutely right. It's because they have nobody else. They had nobody else. So they're forced to play together. They're their only friends. And I was thanking God that I had so many kids, because I was like, I can't imagine if Jack was the only one, he would have been so lonely, and going crazy. So the same thing, just watching them interact, get creative. There were times I want to say that the kids weren't playing video games so much. I don't know if my older son had gotten in trouble and it got taken away or something. But for a period of time, I don't know if it was a couple of weeks, but they were bringing out the Battleship and playing board games and stuff. And I just love that when it has nothing to do with video games and they're just making,
You
memories.
didn't force them to.
Yes. So that's the best. But the best moments were not only watching them bond and stuff, but like because it was summer, we were outside and my husband would be grilling, and then we'd sit and play dominoes while the kids were swimming, and we'd have music going on. And it's so funny because back in the day, I would always think, okay, I need to invite people over. Like we always had people over. Every single weekend was, swimming, somebody coming over and swimming. And to have it just us was really weird at first. And I had to get used to like not being able to invite anybody over. But then it turned nice to just like do what we wanted to do and just have that, time together and just playing games, and we would take the cornhole out in the street in the front yard and play cornhole on the sidewalk. And that we never really did those kind of things with just the five of us. It was always, we would have people over. So it was nice to make those memories with knowing that it was just us. And then because we would do those things, I would think, we can move far away. We used to consider moving far away, and I would tell my husband, never. I could never leave my family. I am so close to them and all this stuff. And then with this quarantine and not seeing people for months, I realized like we can survive on our own. And I mean, I love my family, but I could be without them and we could function and have a nice time,
Yeah.
So
I hear you. Mine is very similar. Mine's would be, the best part would be enjoying my family. Like I feel like we all bonded to like the next level. My husband usually travels so much. So a lot of times I feel like I'm a single parent because I'm like taking him to school, taking him to practice, doing all this stuff. And the fact that he wasn't able to travel, it was like we all got to bond and just like enjoy each other. Like I feel like I said at one point, like, oh my God, I feel like I really got to know my family, like just little things in and out that I maybe would have not paid attention to before because I was so consumed in doing so much things. I was able to like really pay attention to it and get to know them as a whole and bond with them. And I was totally in love. I still like them. I don't want to kick them out yet. So I guess that would be a best part for me because it could go, you could be stuck in the house with them and want to go crazy. It could have went that way.
Well, how many divorces and stuff happened.
I know. Yes, exactly.
There were so many memes saying like, I hope that you married the funny guy because now you're stuck with him. Or like, I hope that you married somebody, with a good personality because now you're stuck with him like every single day. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I mean, it wasn't, that bonding didn't happen with everybody. It definitely pushed other people away. So
And that's why I feel like that's a total, like, I feel like a blessing, because I feel like we were able to do that teamwork for a change, you know?
Yeah. I definitely miss the sports though. Like I missed
Yeah,
not the
absolutely. The
sports of the
normal
world because I'm not big on watching sports games, but like watching my
with the
kids,
kids,
that's my favorite
in
thing
the
is to watching
games.
them play and cheering them on. And I feel bad that they didn't get to do that this year. And that I definitely miss that. But I feel like when it starts, I'm gonna not fill our calendars over the top to where we can't have this downtime, because I really started enjoying this downtime too. And I'm just going to kind of keep it at like one activity per kid, you know, so that we can have downtime. And I got to enjoy my weekends. Like we never had a free weekend. So when you have a free weekend and you could do whatever you want at in your house or DIYs or just chill or watch movies, like we never used to have that time. So to have that feels really nice. And it's funny because once the world started opening up a little bit and there were plans and birthday parties and stuff going on, and I was like, okay, I feel like my calendar's booking up and I'm getting anxiety. Like I want my me time again. Like I just want to kind of crawl back up in a little ball. And then it's so weird because then the world kind of closed back down again because of a second wave. And that just came right in time because I was like, okay, good. I feel good. I have that thing that Roni has where you just can't say no to people. You're just like, yes, I'll be there. Okay, I'll be at your this and that. And, you know, so it's nice to have that time. I have to be able to have that balance and, you know, so, do you guys dare to have any goals for 2021? You're like, no. I know.
It's just to survive.
You know, it's so funny that you say that the saying, you need to learn how to say no. It's because that's actually, I feel like that's one of my goals is
to say no.
Learn, because like, it's okay, like to say that you can't do it or like that you don't have the time, and just to enjoy, because I feel like sometimes the things that I'll plug in my calendar and just plug it in, and sometimes those times are times that I maybe need to take for myself, so I get overwhelmed. So those are something I want to like to learn in 2021 is like, you know what, if you just don't feel up to doing it, you just don't feel up to doing it. And you don't have to say yes to everything and run yourself in the ground.
I heard something like that. They were saying to schedule like free weekends for yourself. Like plug it into your actual calendar so you respect it and you're like, okay, so if somebody tries to make plans on that weekend, you'll see it says no, free weekend, or like stay home weekend, or keep this weekend clear, or whatever the fuck you needed to say. But basically it's saying like, don't plan anything because you need to like reboot. And I've been doing that and I've never respected it. I've been doing that since I learned about it, and it's been like a year and a half or so, and I never took it serious. I would just kind of move it around and like, oh, well, I guess this month won't have a free weekend. But now that we experience this type of year, next year I definitely want to take those more seriously. And when it says free weekend, just have your free weekend to, you know, and like keep it clear, and so that you can do whatever you feel like intuitively to do. And that's one thing that I learned is to like listen to the intuition kind of feel, you know, those feelings, because with being so busy, you never really stop to think like, what do I want to do? Or what do I need? Like, I think I need a fucking nap, you know? And like, I never had time for a nap. And so now there's times where my husband will, you know, be in the garage fixing it or whatever. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to take a little 30-minute cat nap, you know? And I that was so far-fetched, but that's part of my like self-care. Like, if I feel tired, go, because if I'm going to be grouchy, I'm no good to anybody, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to work on, is like to actually take self-care more seriously and like be more intuitive with it. You know what I mean? I still want to plan vacations though. Like I really want to go to Hawaii next year. We've been wanting to take the kids, but if it's not going to be open, then I'm not going to waste our time, you know? But that's something, and it's our 10-year wedding anniversary next year. and it is our 17 years together. So we'll technically have been together half of our life because we met when we were 17.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Oh
and
my
that,
God.
yeah,
That's a big
so
one.
it's like a big deal. And we wanted to have like a vow renewal and, you know, and a party and celebration and stuff. So I'm really hoping that we can do that next summer. But if not, it's just
I
another
know
day, right?
it's almost like scary. Like, do you make plans and then are you going to
Yeah.
be disappointed because we're going to have to cancel them? Or
Yeah. And
I'm
I know
definitely the type
so
that
many people who
gets
have
like
canceled.
butt hurt when I'm disappointed. Like if I have high hopes about something and then like they don't go as planned, I am the type that like shuts down. So I'm like, don't make any plans.
But is that weird for you to like just completely have a clear calendar and not make plans? I feel
No.
like that's more, no?
Well,
That's,
because like my kids are still little, we haven't really had like the full calendar where they're in sports and you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
yeah,
That's
it's
true.
it's
environmental
nice
stuff.
to not have plans, but it sucks at the same times when like you don't have anything else to do and they're driving you up the wall kind of thing.
You know, it's so funny because I feel like when they're young, I felt like I had all the time in the world. Like, you know, they're one day they're going to start sports and you have all the time in the world. But then when your oldest starts turning into a teenager or preteen, like my son, he's damn near 12, and I feel like my time is limited. Like if you really look at it, I only have 6 more years until he's 18,
An adult.
and I only have 4 more years till he's driving. And if you look at my daughter, she's gonna be 4, so that happens in a blink of an eye, you know. And
Yeah.
so when you start really thinking and putting that into perspective, you're like, well shit, my days are numbered with them being my babies, you know. And so then I'm like, these years are being wasted because they don't, you know, like this whole year of shutdown, like that was a year of their childhood that they're not going to get back, even though they got a different perspective of it. But and maybe this is what they needed to learn too.
Yeah.
Like not everything is going to be there for them. So but I don't know. Do you get anxious, Roni? Like having your kids older, do you ever feel like your time is limited and you're like, oh my God, like
Absolutely.
each
We might
year
move
you
out of
have
the
less
house
and
soon.
less?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I start freaking out. Like I'll have moments where I just like look like Devin will come down the stairs and or he'll say mom and his voice is like so deep and I'm like, wait, what? Like I'm liable to like start crying because I like freak out. I freak out. It's
Oh.
Like, okay, so I'm going to tell you guys something. So today, so my son has a crush on one of the neighbor girls,
oh
and she
that
doesn't,
girl.
yeah, and she goes to school somewhere else. So she's not available like after school. She doesn't get home till later at night. So he wants to hang out with her and she can't, you know? And so, but she could text, she has her own phone, and my son doesn't have a phone. So he found that he downloaded an app on his computer. I don't know who told him about it, but where he can text with her, like chat with her.
Oh, I've heard about
And
that.
so I walk in and he's chatting with her, and they're, you know, they're talking about cookies, their favorite cookies and their favorite whatever,
Oh,
which really freaked me out because
it's
first of all,
serious.
he's never talked to, like, he has a best friend who he'll talk to here and there, like a group, and there's a girl in there, but like they've never chatted about cookies and stuff like that. And I know he has a crush on her, you know. So this, like, to see them talking like that, like that's how me and Jack used to talk, my husband. Like I would ask him stupid questions like, what's your favorite cereal, and what do you like, ding dongs or ho-hos, or, you know, like those kind of things. So to see him asking these questions, and I'm like, oh my God, like he's really trying to get to know her, and this is making me nervous. And then I'm thinking of him like as a teenager, and then my husband's like, well, I don't, like, because there's no parental control on that app, you know, so I don't know and then my heart starts pounding, like, what if they start texting inappropriately, and I have and even though they're talking about favorite cookies, but still, like, I started panicking, like, how am I gonna control this as a parent? And then we told him, look, you can use my phone to text her if you want to text her, but you can't use this app. And he broke down in tears. He just had a meltdown right now and crying.
Did he?
And then I'm like, damn, like, am I being too hard? Like, and then part of me is like, no, this is what a parent does. You got to put the law down, you know, and then the other me is like, maybe it's just innocent and you just need to like loosen up the reins. So, and then I'm
Is
like,
it like an app that
this is
saves
like
the conversations?
That's what I was gonna say, because he could be innocent and still text from your
And
phone,
then,
and
like-
you can go back and look.
Yeah.
But the other one, like, if you can't see the conversations and then something comes up, as a parent, you need to be able to protect, like, you know, anything, like, to be able to have, like, well, no, that didn't happen that way because look, you know what I mean? So I don't think
when I was 12, that's when AOL was coming out, remember? AOL and
Instant Messenger.
Yes. And I remember my older brother, he would chat with, you know, people, strangers and stuff. And then I would sneak on it when my brother would go to school. So I would chat on his account and meet people. And I remember a couple times people sending me like inappropriate pictures, you know,
Really?
and yeah, not because I asked for it, but like, you know how like people would be like, send a picture, and then like they would send, and I saw my first threesome at 12 years old in a picture, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, why is yeah? So that makes me nervous because like my husband's like, oh, he's just a kid, but I'm like, yes, but this world is not kid friendly,
designed for just a kid.
Yeah, so he could see something and that's it. It'll make him curious for the rest of his life or whatever. Like
for life.
Yeah, or it'll open a door, you know, and I'm not ready for those doors to be open yet, you know, and I know it doesn't matter what the fuck I'm ready for, but man, that just made me realize like, man, my kid's getting older and he's not like this innocent little pumpkin anymore.
So is he okay with using your phone, or he's just like, F you?
He's mad because he's like, oh, I can't always like have your phone and you don't always let me use it, like you're on it too. And I'm like, well, okay, so tell me when you want to use it, like ask me to use it and I'll let you use it. And so then he asked me to use it. Like right now he's in the back, he's using it. And I don't know if he's texting her or calling her, because then I started thinking like when I was younger, I would use my house phone and I used to call boys, you know, and my mom didn't panic. And I told him, I'm not panicking. Like, I'm not trying to keep you from talking to a girl. I don't want you to just be on something that you don't know if it's safe, you know, and like anybody can contact you. And I don't like that. I don't like not knowing who's contacting you.
It's not about you not trusting him. It's not trusting everyone else.
Yes. And not trusting his future self.
Oh my God. Maybe you guys need to get a house phone.
You know, I'm down for the house phone, but part of me thinks like, okay, you know, yeah, I don't know. We should probably get a house phone. But it's funny because I was like, well, maybe you should call her. And he's like, well, she just wants to text. And I'm like, listen, let me tell you. Kids your age, they just text and their communication is awful. You know, like if you want to have real friendships, you need to get on the phone and you need to call them.
Real conversation.
And, so that this way it's not awkward when you're sitting in front of them talking to them, you know, like because
texting in front of each other.
People who just text each other and then it's like everyone's shy, you know. So I'm trying.
This generation is totally different. Texting is life. Mm-hmm.
I know. So
picking up the phone, they're like, "What? I have to what?"
She's gonna hear my voice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Alrighty, guys. This has been a year.
It definitely has.
Do you think it's gonna get better though next year?
You know what? That's so crazy that like my answer is literally like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And then people scare me when they're like, this world is never going back to what it used to be. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's never going back. Well, can it get close? I feel like
I had this conversation with Janelle over the weekend about like germs. Like Landon's now starting to turn into a germaphobe because of like everything we've been doing, like, you know,
or because of his father.
Well, that's what I originally thought. And I started blaming him. Like, dude, see, now he's getting your germaphobe, whatever.
But that's not a bad trait to have. Like,
yeah, but
when you're like really, really worried about it, you know.
Yeah. Or like even I had mentioned he's getting lazy or impatient, like he's getting used to us having food delivered to the house or being able to drive up somewhere and being catered that way versus waiting in line and, you know, going through the whole patient stuff. Like I gave the example to Janelle that I got them all dressed for Halloween, and there was this huge event at church where it was optional to drive up, but they also had like the booths, the, you know, picture booths or whatever, and little games that were COVID safe. You know, everything was planned out. And as soon as we drove up, and I spent all morning battling with both kids, trying to get them ready in their costumes. We drove up and he saw that the line was around the corner and down the block kind of thing. And he's like, let's just drive up. And I'm like, I spent the whole morning like fighting with you to get in your costume, and you're in your costume. No one's going to see you. And all you want to do is grab the bag and go back home. He's like, yeah. And I'm like,
and he's only 6, right? Which is yeah, it's crazy to think like that. He's like, yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Well, you do have a point, because I before school like opened up, when it was just strictly Zoom. Well, I know a lot of schools are still Zoom, but I would notice my oldest would keep like, he would say like, oh no, I don't want to go around people, like, oh, I feel like it was almost like he was losing like his sociability. Like he was just like, no, I don't want to be around people, like getting anxiety to just even be in a room with people. And I'm like, oh no, like you cannot turn into this, what do they call it, a hermit or just like I'm like, no, you cannot do this. But just being for almost a year of this lifestyle, I can see how that can happen.
Yeah.
It's sad. But yeah, I don't think it will go back to how it was.
Not how it was, but close.
Yeah.
I hope some things go back to normal, like school, you know, like full-time school. Because you guys are at school, but you guys are not full-time yet, right?
We're not full-time, and there's only like 5 kids in the class.
Yeah, we have 8. And
I'm excited for that. But you know, at the same time, it's like, who knows? Like we didn't think that this was gonna last a month, let alone this long, you know? So I remember when they said, oh, school might not open in the fall, and we're like, yeah, right, what do you mean? And then when I heard Google was shut down or like that their employees were not going to be back until January, I was like, there's no way. And who knows, like I don't know any updates now, but that's crazy. Like you don't know.
I feel like they may keep things like as far as like fast food restaurants and stuff with people wearing masks. I don't think that's a bad thing, with people not breathing on your food and stuff like that.
Plexiglass.
Yeah, like those things. I don't mind keeping that, but some of the other stuff has to go.
And I know a lot of people are really uncomfortable and bothered by the mask thing, but I mean, my kids wear it, we all wear it, and it's not killing me, you know, to wear it. It's not, I don't really.
Just got to get a good.
I only do half of my makeup when I know I'm going to wear my mask. So it's nice.
There's times because I constantly like, I feel like I always get stuff in my teeth. So I'm always like checking my teeth before I go somewhere. And then I put my mask on, I'm like, why the hell does it even matter? You know, or like I'll put my chapstick so my lips aren't all chapped. And then I'm like, then my mask sticks to my mouth. So I'm like, I don't even know why I do that. It doesn't matter anymore, which is actually sad because it doesn't matter. Like people can't tell when you're smiling at them, or, you know, like those simple facial gestures that you were able to do without communicating verbally. Like now people don't get that, you know? So that's kind of weird. I just kind of try to avoid like eyes too when I'm at the grocery store. Like, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know if they're smiling or not, you know. So and then I'm over there like
look at
smiling
their eyes.
and they can't see.
Smile with their eyes.
Wince.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they have Botox, then they're like.
Cheers to hanging out with us for the whole year of 2020.
Even in quarantine.
Yes, even in quarantine and through all the bumps. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Love you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you want to catch up on our previous episodes, visit mamasmimosas.com, where you'll get access to all of our podcast show notes, our YouTube videos, and our private Facebook group where we chat with you about each episode and host live Q&A with our favorite mom tribe. Can't wait to see you there.